What's good, everyone? In today's video, I'm going to be sharing 10 tips that I wish I knew when I first started playing Apex Legends. These tips are for the beginner level players. I know there's always an influx of new players when new seasons launch, so I wanted to let you guys in on some of my best tips to get you improving quickly at Apex for Season 11. The majority of these tips will apply to the Battle Royale mode, but if you are really interested in Apex Arenas, a lot of these tips will translate over as well. If you're new here, my channel centers around helping you guys improve at Apex. So without anything further, let's just hop right into these 10 tips. Tip number 1, understand the legends. Now, every legend has 3 abilities. They're going to have a passive, a tactical, and an ultimate. Passives in general are going to be something that doesn't have a cooldown, meaning it will always be available, and it's basically a core principle of your Legends kit. Now, a few of the legends do have a passive that technically has a cooldown, legends like Gibraltar and his gun shield, or Valkyrie with her jetpack. However, most don't have something like this. Now, their tactical is going to be their next ability, and this is something that has a shorter cooldown, usually around 30 seconds or so, and these abilities vary widely throughout the legends. And lastly, each legend has an ultimate. This ability is going to have the longest cooldown, and hopefully it's the best ability for that specific legend. If you're a brand new player, don't sweat it. We are in Season 11, so there's 19 total legends. What I want you to focus on is what you think your playstyle is going to be. For instance, if you're in a movement and you want to be able to get in or out of situations smoothly, quickly, then consider playing legends like Wraith, Pathfinder, or Octane, or really any of the mobility legends that you could unlock. On the flip side though, if you're just not sure who to play quite yet, the easiest 2 legends that I recommend are going to be Bangalore and Bloodhound. Both of these legends you don't need Apex tokens to unlock, and these abilities aren't something that are going to overwhelm you. They're both fairly simple. In Apex, abilities aren't everything like some other games out there, but they do play a significant factor in a lot of fights. Ultimately, most situations will come down to gun skill, movement, and IQ. Over time, however, abilities have become a bigger and bigger role in Apex. So keep this in mind when deciding who to play. Tip number 2, use meta guns. Now, if Season 11 is your first experience playing Apex, well, you're in for some luck, as 95% of the weapons currently are viable. But with that said, let's talk about some of the weapons that will be fairly easy for you to learn and ones that can do some serious damage. First is going to be the R301. It's a light ammo assault rifle. This has very controllable recoil and has a great damage per second. Second, the Volt. This is an energy ammo SMG. This gun also has fairly manageable recoil and has strong potential to one-clip enemies. Third, shotguns. A lot of fights in Apex will result in close range combats. And since you not only need to knock enemies, but also eliminate them to secure those kills, this forces teams to close the gap and make sure any knocks that they get can be turned into kills. All of the shotguns this season are viable, but my favorite are the Peacekeeper and the Mastiff. If you're into LMGs, I would have to recommend the Rampage. This gun shoots slow, but is heavy hitting and can be a great gun to lay down covering fire for your teammates. And if you're into sniping, I would recommend the Longbow or the Triple Take this season. They both shoot fast, have a high DPS, and are fairly noob friendly. If you guys are enjoying this video, please do me one favor and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. This is only going to take a second of your time. It will help push the video out to more viewers, so thank you so much for doing that. Tip number 3, understand the tiered loot difference. Now, white is the basic loot, blue is going to be secondary, purple and gold are basically considered legendary, and red is heirloom tier. Now, the only red loot is going to be weapons from care packages and red Evo armor. I'll talk about the Evo armor in a second. You will spawn in with a white Evo armor, white knockdown shield, and white helmet. Any gun you pick up will have no attachments on it, but you can find attachments throughout the game. Each weapon will increase in certain aspects depending on the attachments you find for that weapon and depending on the tiered loot of that attachment. Things like extended magazines will help with your magazine size, barrel stabilizers are going to help decrease recoil, and standard or sniper stocks will help with reload speed and handling of that weapon. Now, with the Evo armor, you're able to level up your armor to blue, purple, or red by doing damage. Every game, the armor will display a number in your UI of how much more damage you need to do to level it up. You can still find white, blue, purple, or gold shields throughout your game in the loot pool if you need to armor swap. But for red armor, it's something one needs to earn. Red armor does not spawn in the loot pool. If you understand the differences of loot, you will know what's better, what's worse, and what to look for throughout each game. Apex does a really good job of making this super easy for new players because of the differences of color and how the mind is going to be drawn to different colors, and they just make it really easy to pick up on what's going to be the best and what is more basic. On the topic of loot, let's go to tip number 4. Tip number 4 is going to be don't spend forever looting. Trust me, you will not improve at Apex quickly if you spend the majority of your matches looting. I know it can be tempting to try to find the best of the best loot, but that is not something that will dictate every single fight you get into. You're not really going to get better if you waste a lot of your time in matches not fighting. So listen, as long as you have a decent loadout with some shields and meds, you're basically set to fight. If you win the fight, you get a plethora of loot from the death boxes. See, good players get what they need at the beginning of the game and then fight, and then get the rest of the loot from the kills that they get. I know newer players struggle with this, and if you're brand new, it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but it is a habit you should start early. That way it won't be an unhealthy habit you need to break later on. Tip number 5, play close with your teammates. There's always going to be strength in numbers when it comes to Apex Legends. If you find yourself in a disadvantaged fight like a 1-on-3 or a 2-on-3, it's always going to be harder to win that fight. The time to kill in this game is lengthy, and this is not Call of Duty or Valorant where you can kill 3 people with 1 clip. So for this reason, teams that play together tend to perform better. Now keep in mind, when you solo queue, it's going to be nearly impossible to have randoms do what you want them to do, or even what you think is the best thing for them to do. So for this reason, I recommend playing with some friends. Apex is such a team-oriented game, and if your teammates always die and quit on you, or you just feel like they don't help you out in any of the fights, it's probably time to squad up. You should join my Discord with over 3,000 active members, many of who are always looking to squad up with others. There's a specific looking for teammates section in my server that is always popping off. The link will be in the description below. Tip number 6, think about your rotations before you start making them. Timing when to leave and planning where to go is critical to making good rotations. Now, understanding the differences in storm damage is also something you should know. Round 1 storm is fine to be in for a little while, although I never recommend rotating late unless you absolutely have to. But something like round 2 or 3 storm is just not going to cut it. The storm starts to do much more damage after round 2, and although we have heat shields which help prevent ring damage for a brief amount of time, it's still not something I recommend doing every single rotation. So before the ring closes, look at your map and look where you need to go. Start planning your rotations. Sometimes you can use your Legend's abilities or other mechanics in the map to assist you with your rotations. Things like zip lines, jump towers, or gravity cannons will help with this, and always try to move together as a team because you never know what you're going to run into on the other end of that circle. You're going to have no information on if a team is waiting on the edge of the circle, looking for teams to come out of the storm, so you always want to be prepared to be potentially held out by teams. This will not be an issue though if you rotate early, so trust me, you cannot go wrong with rotating early. Tip number 7, don't waste too much time with the PvE on the new map Stormpoint. Listen, if you've played Stormpoint at all, you'll know there's spiders and prowlers, and if you kill them, you get some loot for that. But keep in mind, the more time you spend shooting these things, the more attention you attract to yourself. Nothing brings on third parties in a battle royale more than gunshots. So don't waste your time with this stuff, because 99% of the time, you will just give away your position and most likely put yourself in a vulnerable spot to get into some trouble. Not to mention, most of the loot that they give you really isn't that great. Like sure, they will give you a couple stacks of ammo that you're already using, but most likely you're gonna waste that same amount of ammo in killing the prowler, so you're walking away break even. Now of course, if a prowler's attacking you, put it down. But my point here is don't go out of your way to waste your time fighting this PvE. Tip number 8, learn the maps. Regardless if you've played previous seasons or not, Apex has a total of 4 Battle Royale maps. King's Canyon, which was the first map, World's Edge, which was the second, Olympus, and now Stormpoint. But for Season 11, only World's Edge and Stormpoint will be in rotation, so this makes understanding and learning those maps a little bit easier. If you play pubs, they will rotate these maps every hour or two, and if you play ranked, the first rank split, which is now, is on Stormpoint, and the second half of the season is going to be on World's Edge. I prefer World's Edge. Personally, it's a really easy map to familiarize yourself with because of its popular points of interest, places like Fragment East and West, and Lava Siphon. Stormpoint is much bigger on the other hand, with a lot of different types of architecture, a lot of different high and low ground, and this map has some more difficulties when it comes to rotations, but overall it's still a pretty fun map. The best way to familiarize yourself with these maps is going to be playing on them and watching other players. Tip number 9, understand the time to kill. As I previously mentioned, Apex does have a lengthy time to kill, so you should know these following figures. As a base, you have 100 health. White shield will add 50, blue shield will add 75, purple and gold each will add 100, and red will add 125. So the highest someone can be is 225 with red armor. If you have damage number feedback turned on in your settings, you can learn some quick math on any opponent. This setting will display how much damage you've dealt to your opponent. So for example, If I shoot someone for 50 damage on blue armor, I can put together that they are at 125 health and shields. The second aspect of this is understanding how long it takes to heal, because in Apex, it does take quite a while. Each heal has a different time duration to use. Med kits, for example, are 8 seconds, syringes take 5 seconds, shield cells take 3 seconds, and shield batteries take 5 seconds. These differences in time really play a role in whether you're able to get that heal completed in those vulnerable moments of battle. Keep all of these things in mind while you're playing Apex. Tip number 10, adjust your settings. For one, Apex leaves you on like 70 field of view when you start, and if you play controller, the settings are a little slow. Now listen, I have a more in-depth guide on how to change up your settings and what works best for me. I'll link it in the info card above. I don't want to deep dive into settings on this video, but I do just want to let you guys know that your settings that Apex leaves you on when you begin the game are not the best for everyone. So consider changing some things up. Also, if you play on PC, you probably want to lower a lot of the graphics settings so you're not throttling your CPU and GPU. If you guys made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you were able to learn a few different things about Apex and beginning your journey playing this beautiful game that is super frustrating but also really fun. If you aren't already subscribed, I hope you'll consider doing so you don't miss out on my next upload. That's going to be it for me though. I'll catch you on my next one. Peace.